Let's talk about the plugin API for WordPress. Okay, I'm just going to give you a general overview of what it is, just to get you started. Okay. The plugin API is the heart of WordPress. It's the way that developers like us can go in and extend, enhance, and change the way that WordPress works. Okay, right out of the box, WordPress just works. They don't need us. No, they can spin up a website and it's going to have very basic functionality. But to do something more with it, to get custom themes, to get custom plugins, to have advanced features and so on, we need to have a way that we can interact not only with WordPress Core, but with the plugins themselves, with the themes, have everything talking to one another. And that's what the plugin API does for us. All right, let me introduce this concept to you. So here's what I want you to think about. In programs, there is an execution order. And what I mean by that is think about your program. So I'm just going to draw out a box here. Think about if you need to see line numbers, then we have line numbers of code, right? And the program comes and it's going to execute this code in order. So it's going to start with the first file. So if we went to index.php in the root of WordPress, it's going to start right there. And then it's going to start loading up all this code. Okay, all these other files are going to come in and it's just going to keep loading in order by the way that the code's been set up. Okay, so it goes through things like an initialization process, and it goes in and it's got some rewrite tasks that it does, right? So there's lots of stuff that's going on. Okay. If we're over here and we're saying, all right, I have this plugin that I want to build, and then I have this theme over here that I want, I need to be able to interact with this guy. I need to be able to say, hey, when the init occurs, I need to fire something over here in my plugin or my theme, right? I've got to be able to initialize my stuff at the time when it runs. So think about this. If it's running in order, how can your plugin then say, when this occurs, I want this to occur? How can that happen? When it gets down here and it says loop start, how can you know that the loop has started? How can you go and tap into that and say, okay, when that starts, I want to do something over here, right? All of these different, what is called events. And sometimes you'll see it in WordPress that they call them hooks, filters, actions. They're all events. Okay, and what's happening is WordPress has this system. It's an event-driven system, such that when something happens, imagine in your code, you're loading something up, and when you get all done, you go and you fire some events. We're going to say fire an event that says, hey, my plugin's all loaded. And anybody who is registered to that event or listening to it can say, okay, when that occurs, I'm going to go and do stuff. So think about it like this. You've got WordPress, right? Core. And there's multiple APIs in here. And then we want to extend that functionality up here to your plugin. And these other plugins, maybe this is some sort of form plugin. Maybe you've got a membership plugin over here and so on. Maybe there's a forum, right? So you've got multiple plugins that need to interact with WordPress Core. Well, the way that gets done is with the event management system, which is built into the plugin API. Okay, so here's the essence of it. And then we'll dig in and really understand it. Think about this. Think about that the program is loading in order, like I said. And when it comes down to line whatever, say 582, and it does something. When it gets there and it says, I'm now going to broadcast, hey, hello world, if you're listening, I just broadcasted something. I did something, and you might be interested in it that it occurred at this point in the program because you want to have functionality put into that point in the program. Say you're loading up the website. Okay. So it's all loading up. It hasn't been spit out to the browser yet. Before everything runs, you want to be able to say, hey, I need to do something. Maybe I need to go and tap into the rewrite API. Maybe I need to get in to initialize some rights for a user. Maybe I need to even check if a user has authorization to even view this particular page that they're on, right? So for that to occur, you've got to come in at that point in the code, whatever point that is, when WordPress is calling things, and you need to be able to say, I want to register and listen for that event to occur. And when that does, hey, you run your code, WordPress, and then come call me. Let's say it's over here in a membership plan. Okay, in this plugin over here. So when you get to that point where I can go and check, hey, is the user logged in? Do they have the right rights and so on? Okay, when you get to that point, then great. Call me too. So think about this. Let's say like an init event. Well, we've got all these plugins over here. So I got a plugin here. I've got one here. And I've got a theme. And they all want to fire when the init fires. Okay. So what you do is you go and you do what's called a registration. You're going to register your plugin, your callback. Okay. You're going to register that callback over here. So you've got some function, and you're going to say, when you fire, would you please fire my function over here too? Thank you. And that's what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, for this init, I'm going to register this function. Let's just call this A, B, C. So over here, I'm going to have A, then I'm going to have B, then I'm going to have C. And they're all sitting here in a lookup table because they pre-registered. So think about that. Think about a real event. Think about if you're going to go to a WordCamp or something, right? You're going to register, get your ticket, you're going to register. That's going to put your name into some sort of registry, some sort of lookup table that says, hey, Sally or Bob or whomever or Tanya has a ticket, and yep, you can get in now. So I've registered for that event. Well, it's the same thing here. You're going to pre-register first by doing something like an add action, add filter. And so you're pre-registering before that event fires. Then that event's going to come along and it's going to say, hey, who registered for me? Okay, great. Now my event is going on, just like a WordCamp's going on now. Everyone who's here can attend because it's going on. Well, it's the same thing with this. When this fires, that's what we call it. When an event fires, then it's going to go and it's going to say, okay, who registered? Okay, so let's explore that a little bit more. So we've got this init, and then we have this lookup table of everyone who is registered. So let's say this is a registration table. Okay, so now I'm going to look up and I've got all these function names in here, right? All these various plugins, and they're all in here. And yours comes in and you say, I need to get registered to this guy too, but I need to fire pretty early. I need to be up here towards the top. Well, then they have this thing called a priority system where you can come in and say, okay, what priority do you want? And that helps you to load someplace in this lookup table. So the lower the number, the higher you are to the top. The bigger the number, the more you are towards the bottom. All right, and it defaults at 10. So it just puts everybody in the middle somewhere. So if you came along and you said, I want to be 2, well, then you're going to be closer to the top. Maybe you're right in here, right? Versus somewhere down here or even further down. So when a init comes along and it fires, then just like a program goes in order, well, so does this. It goes and it says, all right, I'm going to go through the list of everybody who's registered to me, and I'm going to go in order. Okay, so you're number 1. I'll do you first. Then I'll do number 2, number 3, number 4. And it goes off and it calls all of these plugins, and it allows them to then execute. So think about that a minute. Okay, so if I'm over here in Core and I run an init, within Core, it's doing some stuff. So it's running some code. And then it fires the init. And let's say if we have our lookup table over here, let's say we have this plugin and it needs to fire, and it's first on the list. So it says, okay, now before I continue with the rest of the code, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go and I'm going to call you. Now you go work. Okay, so now this plugin is going to go and do its thing. And when it's done, then PHP returns back over to here and it says, okay, who's next? Okay, I got another one over here. Okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to call you now. And now you can do your work, and notice how the program just sits here and it's allowing all of these things to occur. Why is that important? Think about that. Why is that important? Because it's allowing us to extend, customize, and change, even enhance WordPress, right? We are then adding functionality, changing what WordPress is doing out of the box, adding to it, enhancing it, and providing a more enriched user experience. That's what we're doing with our plugins. Okay, we're helping our customers to help their customers have a better user experience on their website, to drive more traffic to them, to make them more money, get them more exposure, whatever their website is for. That's why they're coming to us, is to say, hey, help me to extend, customize, enhance WordPress so that I can have a more enriched user experience for the people who come to my website. And we do that through the event management system. So then when you look at the documentation here in Codex, what you see is they use words like hooks, actions, filters, and we'll talk about all of those. And there's a bunch of different functionality in here, right? That we're going to walk through too. And they give you some examples and such in here, and avoiding name collisions and stuff. We're going to talk about all of this. Okay, it's very important that you understand how the event management system works, because that's the essence of your ability to be able to hook into WordPress, register up your event, and change it, enhance it, customize it. Without understanding this, you're just writing code, right? You need to be able to hook into WordPress to make your code fire. So this is where it starts, right here.